All right, who are we having a dig at? It is time for the dig before every job. Search before you dig online every time. I've just had enough this week.
What have you done?
There's been no Sunday footy show, so I've got all these multiple volcanoes just stored up in me, waiting to burst out. Because
I didn't realise how much good stuff you were giving elsewhere and not here until the volcano got shut down. I thought, you know what, we've been getting these bees set for ages.
I've had so many bullets to fire, and the AFL needs an intervention, and it has to be in support of the clubs who continually invest in their players. And I hate long-term contract, but good on them for backing their players in and giving them some security. Then a year later, they want out. So the names that have come up. Barras, disgraceful. He reckons that it's the media talking about him wanting to leave when really it's him and his management that have put this on the cards for well over 12 months. And now he's meeting Sam Mitch. So Barras is one. Waterman's the latest. So I can't believe Jake. The Eagles have supported him through really difficult times, given him a contract. The minute he plays 15 good games, he wants a new deal. He wants the current one ripped up. Shea Bolton, how many flags he got? 3 flags at Richmond. All of a sudden, they've given him 4 years, probably at 900. He wants out. Rioli's the next one. Times get tough at Richmond after the success that they've had. He wants to go join Damien Hardwick at Gold Coast. Worthless contracts, and the club has no power to do anything about it. Honestly, it's been a week that has really frustrated me. Now, I'm a bit serious for this time of the morning, but that's my dig.
Well, you said there was going to be a mass exodus at the Kangas. You got that one wrong. Well, but tell you what, there's a mass exodus at the Tigers. What's happening there?
Well, all of us, come on. See, this is why I love Luke Bruce, right? The story of Luke Bruce. He has, as a young player, has a lot of success and very easy to get, a bit, after you've had that success, you want to chase it, right? But he doesn't. He sticks there through the bad times, and then all of a sudden he's playing a smaller role as they come out the other side. And I love that loyalty that he has shown. But, yeah, I'd be a bit disappointed if I was a Richmond fan after the great times that they've had, career times.
It's a good call.
And they want out.
Oh, that's why I want Patrick Cripps to win a flag.
Oh, 100%.
He's been through the dark times and I want him to lead them to the promised land. But we'll wait and see what that happens. I've got a small dig, right? It's for the target shooting fraternity out there, right? No, it's not. It's not a field that I can overly recognise too many. If they stood in front of me, I would not recognise them as a target shooter, nor a clay shooter for that fact, right? But I saw my man, the Turkish-born Youssef Takesh, during the week.
Oh, well
Did
done.
you see him?
I didn't see. I saw a bit of Youssef on social media, I think.
Well, he stood there, one hand in pocket.
No glasses?
Just lifted the gun. No glasses, no protective ear guards, nothing, and shot himself into a silver medal. Now, that is a man after my own heart. He's been representing since 2008.
So
this is his first medal.
So what's the dig?
Well, my dig is how this bloke got back here, right? Because this is his first medal since 2008. So he's been going with that hand in pocket, no glasses,
technique.
No earwear technique for years, and they keep sending him back to the Olympics. I mean, have you seen a more relaxed gent in all your life? Hey, so how does this bloke shoot his way to silver? What's going on in the target shooting
And everyone
fraternity?
else has got the special glasses.
They got the lot.
They're locked in.
Training within an inch of their life. This bloke's just walking out the front door, knocking off a couple of birds that are flying past.
Amazing. Let's start with tonight. So, of course, the Western Bulldogs, Footscray, we should call them for this round, which we will call them. They're unchanged, going in against Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. For the D's, 3 changes. Howes, Sparrow and Tolstrup are in. Wins is injured, which is unfortunate. Great first year for him. Billings omitted, as is Laurie. Kingy, your first thoughts on this encounter? The Dogs are flying.
Wow, the best 2 words in footy, and I keep saying it, are no change. No change to the Dogs, and they are humming. I mean, this is quite remarkable what they've been able to do, because now I heard you talking with Jono on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Now they're asking less of those bottom 6 players because the heavy lifting's been done by largely the midfield now, and we talk a lot about Bailey Dale off half-back, but Ed Richards and the 250 gamer this week, Adam Treloar, are allowing so much else to go on around the edges. Bontempelli spending more time forward than he's ever spent and getting more score involvements in the forward 50 than he's ever given to this team. So I just think it's all coming together. I don't know whether you do the predictor or get involved in looking too far forward, Cornsey, but there's about 2 or 3 games for the rest of the year that stand in the way of the Dogs finishing top 4?
2 or 3.
Yeah, not many.
That's it.
Not many. They've got to win their games, clearly.
So
They've got to
you're
win all 4.
expecting them to finish top 4?
I'm expecting them to win all 4 of theirs,
Yep.
and then it'll come down to the game next week, which is Carlton versus Hawthorn.
Okay.
If Hawthorn beat Carlton, which would be a 50-50 game
Yep,
at best.
I reckon.
If Carlton were to get rolled, then top 4 is up for grabs.
So what do we make of Melbourne? Like, I'm looking through their lineup. I reckon it's one of the weakest Melbourne lineups we've seen probably for a couple of years without going through week by week. But this would take an almighty performance from a midfield that doesn't have a lot of weapons to it, does it? I mean, you're going to know what you're going to get from Viney. I don't know what I'm going to get from Oliver. It's probably 25, but minimal damage with the way that he's playing at the moment. What do you got? Sparrow, who hasn't gotten near it for 2 seasons, has been dropped but has been forced to come back in through injury. So this is a great challenge for Melbourne's midfield. Gawn and English, but is Gawn fully fit? You'd have to say no after what we've seen. So you can't make a case for them. It's probably going to take something special from a Cozzy Pickett to kick a 5 or 6 tonight, because I can't see the other forward options standing up when it matters. Fritsch has probably got 3 or 4 in him at his absolute best, but what are you going to get from Harrison Petty? I don't know. This is a
their
weak
forward half stuff was
Melbourne
really
lineup.
good. A weak lineup, yeah.
Personnel-wise.
And they would say that too. I mean, it just looks a different team without Petrarca in it, doesn't it?
Yep.
I mean, it's hard to look at that lineup and go, okay, I'm excited about this, I'm excited about that. But I looked at the way they almost won that game last week against the Giants, and it was locking the ball in their forward half. It wasn't really done on talent. It was done on system and effort and application. And I think Neil Bullen is such a barometer for this team. His energy is always at a premium level. But they can do it. They definitely can, but no one's going to probably tip them. I like to see how teams that are on the rise like the Dogs handle this sort of matchup. Come, no change, in good form, just get the job done. How ruthless can you be? How early can you bank the win?
It's probably a different test, isn't it? Because the last 3 weeks, they've probably started underdogs, I would have thought. Against Carlton, they certainly did with the injuries that they've had. They definitely would have against Geelong down there, probably. And then Sydney, even though Sydney had those injuries. So 3 really good weeks when there wasn't the expectation. Now there is the expectation to win and win well.
What have you been blown away by what Jamara Ugle-Hagen's been able to do?
I think because I was questioning his energy, his body language, his attitude at times this year, his last 3 weeks, and a couple of those I've seen him live. This is what we expected. And the sky's the limit for what this guy can be. When he buys in like he has with his commitment physically and defensively, this is the player that you can get. So for me, he's been the biggest barometer for what they've done in the last 3 weeks. He gets a good opponent tonight, so they're well organised behind the ball, so it's a different challenge for him. But I've also really liked Riley West, and I love the energy that Cody Waitman plays with as well. So they've got options. Let's move on, because we've got to fly through the next 3 games. The huge one on... Well, I can't believe there's double-up games, great games on Saturday night. But anyway, that's a story for another time. We'll start with Collingwood and Carlton. Hopefully 90+ thousand there for Scott Pendlebury's 400th game. In comes McCreery, De Goey and Frampton for the Pies. And Carlton have strengthened their lineup. There's no doubt about that. Boyd Akers, Mackay and Jack Martin are in. It's as good a Carlton lineup as we've seen for a month, I reckon.
Strong, isn't it?
It is a strong lineup.
But there's still 4 changes. And look, you know what? The fascination for me, I think Carlton will win this game. I don't think by a significant margin, but they'll find a way to get the job done. The fascination for me is, what does Jack Martin do? What is? We talk about this guy like hey, when we get Jack Martin that forward line, it'll change the mix, and we've got a third tall forward down there that can tackle and chase and harass. I've never seen him do it for a month period at all in the whole history.
A tease is what he's been.
But they don't need a lot, so maybe they need that sort of player, obviously.
Can he play the Williams role? Can he bob up and the cameo 2 to 3 goals as a deeper forward?
I want to see it.
Yeah.
I just can't remember the last time that I saw him put it all together. And I know we bang on about this a lot, but the gap between Carlton right now and the very best in the competition is they need their main man down back to cover for all. Not to win his one-on-ones and defeat one man. He needs to cover for all. That's what the best do. I want Jacob Wiedering to watch Jeremy McGovern play and how he makes it a 6v6 battle, not 6 one-on-ones.
Yep. Good call. And I want more from Sard. I think Sard at his best is electric, as good as any attacking but defensively minded halfback as there is in football. But I just haven't seen that enough this year from Sard. So can he be the one that can light them up with Newman across halfback? And for the Pies, De Goey is really important to come back in, but I'm not sure about the state of his body and what he can bring. So reliant once again on the Dacos brothers through the midfield. And Darcy Moore, it was good to see him get back into some form, but it was against Richmond. It's a different challenge tonight against the two, Curnow and Mackay tonight. They absolutely need Darcy Moore's best, maybe his most important home and away game for some time for Darcy Moore. The other game on Saturday night is Port Adelaide taking on Sydney, who have definitely dipped in form. They've got some challenges personnel-wise. They come to Adelaide against the Port Adelaide side, who is unchanged. Terrific in the second half against the Blues last week. And Sydney welcome back a Rowbottom, who's important, and Francis. But Melican goes out and Campbell has been omitted. Will the Swans be there on grand final day, do you think, Kingy?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll be there. I think they'll gather and go again. I get nervous when I see Aaron Francis coming. I think Aaron Francis is the benchmark for like their 29th or 30th player. And when you get to that level, and I see Francis, I say, okay, that's where they're.
That's a good question. And we'll chuck that out there. 043398 1116. Who's the player for your team that when they are included, you know we're down to about 29-30 on the list?
And not meaning they can't win or any of that sort of stuff, but gee, we're down this deep, are we? So I wonder whether they can throw a Nick Blake into the middle and try and spark a response. They look like they're out of energy at the moment in the midfield. Put Heaney forward. He's not touching at the moment. His ball use is awful. He's not the player that he was for the first 10 weeks. We've broken down his numbers ad nauseum. So Warner had a really poor week last week. You'd expect that he would bounce back. Mills will probably go to your man, number 18, Horn Francis, and try and clamp him. And I think Rowbottom will go to Butters.
Yep.
This will be a cracking game. The Swans are really disciplined, and they'll challenge Port to be good for a sustained period to win this game.
I'm surprised Dixon, they've gone with him again. So he kicked 4 against Richmond, and he can give you an effort about once every 5 weeks, Charlie Dixon, and he's got to be fresh. He looked out on his feet last week, so I'm surprised. I'm not Todd Marshall was listed as a test. I just, if he was fit, probably would have gone that way, but he may not have got up. So I'm worried about Charlie Dixon in the forward line. But it's all about the midfield in this game. It is all about the midfield. Wines is in reasonable form. Drew did a great job on Cripps last week, so he will go to someone. I suspect it'll be Heaney when he's there. I don't think he's got the legs to go with Warner or Goulden, but then you've got the other three as well. So great matchup through the midfield. Terrific game on Saturday night. And Port Adelaide are going to have to beat some good opponents in the next 4 weeks. They've got a tough draw to qualify for the finals.
You're back on?
No,
you sort of gave up on Ken last week.
No, I didn't. I still think that I didn't give up on him at all. I still think
who's going to be the round 1 coach of 2025 this week?
Josh Carr will be.
Josh,
I do. Yeah. What do you think?
So you're sort of giving up on him a little bit.
No, well, not really. I am able.
If he's not there, it's giving up.
I am able to fully respect and laud what he's done for the football club, and in the same time speak about the future. I'm allowed to do that. The Giants.
I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to see what it looks like for it. Where does Radaglia play now? What do you do with a Sava?
Well, you can't be critical. He's gone forward. He's had an impact.
Where do you play? He's forward now.
He can be a swingman. We got Hawthorn who have got Weddle and Hardwick and Sicily.
And you've got a Sava.
What's wrong with having a swingman?
I'm just questioning where he's going to play going
where's
forward.
Weddle going to play? Where's Sicily? Where's Hardwick going to play this week? I don't know. It's not a bad problem to have.
Oh, no, it's a beauty. It's a ripper.
What, you wouldn't pick him or what?
No, I'm just wondering where he's going to play.
He'll play forward.
He's going to play forward. Okay, I'll keep that.
This week.
I'll write that down.
They weren't expecting Marshall to be out and Finlayson to be injured, so
I just wanted to know where he's going to play.
It's nice to have some flexibility.
It is terrific.
The Giants taking on Hawthorn. So, squads, of course, because it's a Sunday game. Riccardi's a decent out for the Giants, unfortunately, and the finisher, Finn McGuinness, is out. Good depth from Hawthorn. Not sure which way they'll go in the final 22, but Mackenzie's a good player. He's back in the squad, and Gunston as well. Probably those two in the running to take the finisher's spot. How do you see it? Because they continually front up the Hawks, regardless of who it's against or where it is at, and they're playing as good a football as anyone.
They are, and geez, I got some feedback during the week when I just touched on their.
You wrote them off, didn't you, or not?
I didn't write them off. I touched on their head
Oh,
high
the head
tackles
highs. Well, you
on
wrote them off a
3-6.
couple of weeks
Jeez.
ago with Jared, the Hawks.
No, we do preliminary final integrity. I mean, I saved some of my best stuff for SEN. You've already shot it off on Sunday on the Volcano. This is a big game because I think the GWS Giants have been sort of manufacturing or forced to manufacture that handball game. And it's not as fluent as what it was over the past 18 months. So it's been a little bit clunky. But they've got this guy at full forward, Jesse Hogan, that looks likely to rip every game apart.
Yep.
When the ball's in his area, I don't think there's a cleaner contested marker in the competition right now than Jesse. And I just look at that back six of the Hawks and say, if they can give him enough supply, he could have another day out in ripping form.
Well, and that's why they're going to get Tom Barrass, aren't they? They're clearly their way. So if you got Tom Barrass, I'll put him on Hogan and away we go. But when it's Frosty, when it's Weddle, who went to Taylor Walker last week, playing out of his weight division, you do get a little bit nervous. And according to the stats gurus, Hawthorn very good at restricting the entries, but once it gets in there, they can be scored against pretty easily. So can the Giants midfield generate enough entries to give the likes of Hogan and Green, who's back in form, and the Smalls, Darcy, Jones and Daniels enough opportunities? So I just think it's a great game. This is the game that I'm most interested in.
Who are you tipping?
The round. I just can't go past the style of footy that Hawthorn are playing at the moment. So I'm going to go for the more informed team, and that is the Hawks, even though
Meekie could get hold of Briggsy.
he could.
Battle of the real giants. They're big boys, these two, but Meekie's in good form.
That was 4 games that matter for the round. When automation is key to your business success, trust Conveyor Logistics for your warehouse automation solution. Who you got, Kingy?
Well, I'm putting Isaac Heaney in the gun. I just think that they need this guy to respond. They're craving their midfield goal scorers to get back into form. Goulden, Heaney and Warner have dropped off in terms of their score returns. They've done it against a couple of teams they've had their way with, but they're out of form as a team at the moment. Their game's just slightly off, and it just needs their A graders to get rolling again. Now Heaney's kicking is as poor as I've seen it for a long time. I don't know whether he's tired or tiring after his full year as a midfielder, which he hasn't really done in the past. And I just wonder whether John Longmire now decides to throw him forward and see whether he can just destroy a game as that pseudo centre-half forward that we know he can be, maybe 70% forward, 30% mid rather than 90-10, because they need a spark.
Yep. All right.
So Heaney for me.
Heaney for Kingy. That's who's in the gun for Grays.com, Australia's leading online marketplace, auction marketplace, that is. Well, I'm just putting the whole of the Adelaide Football Club in the gun. And I'm really interested in the way that they fight out the last month of the season, but more importantly, how they deal with the off-season. Where are you at as a footy club? Is the rebuild done? Are you still in the market for a Harrison Petty type? It's not going to be because he's that particular player, but are you in the market for Oliver? Or are you feel like you need to go back to the draft because you've probably butchered a few of your picks, multiple picks, and continue the rebuild, which hasn't got to where it needs to be for 6 years? The extension of Matthew Nicks, if they didn't do that, would he still be safe? I don't know. I just think it's been a far too soft football club, too nice. Let's look after Rory Sloane. Let's look after Tex. Let's play 4 tools. Let's let Tom Stewart do as he pleases when you take him on in round 1. I don't know. I just think they're a nice football club, and they're in the gun for the year that they've had, but more importantly for the next month and the off season, which is as important an off season as any footy club. I don't know where they're at, the Crows.
No, it's a good call. It's hard to work out what. I mean, injury is one thing, but they haven't made the tough calls. They really haven't as a club. And I think to shake the tree sometimes you just have to. You have to make a selection omission every now and then that makes players think, gee, hang on, maybe my spot's up for grabs as well. I think they could have looked at the mix with Walker last week, which you highlighted multiple times, and you're spot on. They were way too tall forward of the ball. They gift midfield opportunity, prime roles to guys that don't really separate games. And that was probably my criticism at the start of the year, and that rang true for probably the first 4 to 5 weeks. And then Rankin went in. and things change. But without Rankin, they look pedestrian.
So Matt Crouch is back this week, King.
Yeah, I know.
Matt Crouch off a long injury layoff is he going to move the needle for them? He's not. He's not going to. So you got the same problem that you spoke about earlier on the year. You're going to have that again this week. You got Soligo, Crouch. You're going to have Laird in there, Berry's in there. Like, what is that as a midfield? I don't get it. So clearly there's some personnel issues.
What would you do? You're the Adelaide Crows coach today. What are you doing this weekend?
So this is where it is a problem for them because you've only got what you've got. But should Curtin be giving more opportunity? I don't know. Like he played as a sub last week, wasn't selected in the initial side, came in late. Would you look at Worrell on ball? Would you look at Michael Aney in a full-time role on
Hinge
ball?
for me.
Yeah, Hinge you've spoken about. So there's all of that. I just think you've got to clear out the forward line for Thilthorpe and Fogarty, and it would be a big call to rest Taylor Walker again. But they did it against Essendon, and they kicked 115 points, and Fogarty looked like Wayne Carey, and he looked hopeless last week. Now, maybe I'm drawing a long bow there because it's just Taylor Walker, but the forward line looks more dynamic when it's Thilthorpe and Fogarty. What do you do with Tom Stewart this week after North Melbourne allowed him to do as he pleased and Adelaide did the same when he took 10 intercept marks earlier on in the year? These are tests for Matthew Nicks in the last month of the year. But more importantly, as a footy club, where are you at? I think that's strategically, where do you think your club is at? They're a young group still when you look at the demographic, but I just think there needs to be a bit more information because they thought they were close. They're not close, so what moves are they going to make in the off-season?
Yeah, and I'm not worried about the off-season. I'm worried about this weekend, right? So don't get beaten by Jeremy Cameron doing what he wants to do. And for God's sake, someone go with Tom Stewart. Someone. Hey, my agenda item number 1.
Yeah.
Should Tyson Stengel be playing this weekend for Geelong? I mean, you found unresponsive outside of a nightclub 7 days ago. And I just feel like we've ticked this one off pretty quickly. Oh. Conduct unbecoming, all those sort of things. The AFL have almost just let Geelong handle their own situation. I don't know if the footy world is comfortable with that.
No, and so I wrote about this in The Age yesterday about the risk and my concern of him wasting a third chance. So they've saved his career, and credit to him for the work that he's done on getting himself to the point. But a month ago, they invested 5 years in Tyson Stengel for a reported $3.5 million. He's playing in Tassie. He comes home, lands at 8:30 and heads out to a nightclub until 2:30 in the morning and gets carried out. So I think what you're saying is absolutely worth following up. Now, the man who broke the story is Mitch Cleary. He's going to join us a little bit later on the show. But in an era where we are so petrified of head knocks and looking after the players in that aspect, yet we're willing just to sweep this one through to the keeper or under the carpet, I think it's absolutely worthy of questions over. Yeah, and Geelong were pretty quick to everything's okay here.
I'm surprised. I must admit, I was surprised by that. And I trust Chris Scott to make the right call every time. So you have to say, well, they clearly know more information.
But
than
it doesn't
us.
mean we can't ask the question.
Exactly,
that have to be asked.
And I know Patrick Dangerfield fronted the media and spoke really well. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the community standards, and these are the pinnacles of leadership in our community. These guys, whether you like it or not, they are. So as a role model, you do have certain obligations, and we've all made mistakes and paid our price for them across the journey. I just feel like they let one go a bit easy here.
So I'd be furious if I was his teammate. Love the fact they support him publicly and all of that, and that is fine. Wrap your arms around him. But privately, if I was his teammate and they're a month out from a potential final series and this is going on, I'd be, and particularly with the history and the second and third chances that he has got that some other players don't get, I'd be a little bit flat. And if I was Andrew Mackie, I'd be going, gee whiz, we've just invested 5 years in this guy. Yeah. And conversely, if I'm the Saints, I'm going, gee whiz, I'm probably glad that he chose to stay at Geelong with, not heeding the second opportunities that he's got. But anyway, hopefully it turns out well for him and the footy club. You were big during the call of the game between North and Geelong. You did it. You were trying to wrap your head around the tactics of Tom Stewart and what North were trying to achieve by sort of being bamboozled by the tactic of Tom Stewart starting on ball and then playing his usual role. Well, Charlie Comben, the young forward for North Melbourne, was on a podcast during the week, the 200 Plus podcast, which is terrific. And he was asked about the tactics they went into the game with against Tom Stewart.
So they play 3 minutes at stoppage, but around the ground they essentially kind of play 2. And Tom Stewart drops back behind the ball to give us some coverage and to get his intercept game going as a free defender. We opted to try soak that up with our 3 tools and get a contest. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So yeah, if we had our time again, I can't speak for any of the coaches, but I assume we'd probably send someone to Tom.
It's pretty good honesty. That's good insight. You would have thought they could have done that at halftime or at quarter time.
120 minutes was a fraction long with that tactic, I reckon.
Given
Given that it failed for 119.
Well, we had 9 in the first quarter, and they should have been 5 goals up if it wasn't for Tom Stewart and a couple of their errors going inside forward 50. So at quarter time, maybe they could have adjusted that.
What do you think? So give me your version of...
Well, he has... I just wonder how... And I asked Will the question, maybe for that reason, how much time you spend on the opposition. And is it now you focus a lot on yourself and getting your game going and what works for you, maybe at the expense of not putting the investment into the opposition? And I've heard Ross Lyon speak about 16 contact hours for players at the club for a week. Well, why don't we make it 18 instead of 16 and spend 2 hours on the opposition so you don't get yourself in a position where one of Geelong's most important players, it's obvious to everyone that he's really struggled when the extra attention has been there. Why don't you spend an hour extra and stay there for 17 hours instead of 16 for a week and put some more time into the oppo? So I wonder whether that is giving it enough time and preparation and respect.
I'm more critical than that on the coaching side of it because they aren't 16 hours a week.
No, you're right.
This is a Wednesday night tactic.
Yep.
You sign off on this in the cool, clear light of day without any trauma of game day, without any time pressure, any scoreboard pressure. We're going to let this guy roll back unimpacted behind the footy and do what he's done for 10 years as one of the best intercept defenders in the comp. We're going to let him do that. Okay, let's sign off on that. I'm a bit more critical of that. I don't know how they thought that was going to work.
Nah, let's not leave it to Bryn Teakle and Nick Larkey, who's already got 2 on him, to round up Tom Stewart.
Yeah.
What else is on your agenda?
I don't know whether you caught first crack last night. I know you don't miss much. But Brad Scott spoke yesterday, and we just backed over a couple of comments that I just found interesting about Essendon's aspirations to play finals, given they're half a game out with 4 rounds to play.
Whether you make finals, don't make finals, it doesn't matter. We want to be playing a style that can compete against the best in the pressure moments, and perform well, not just make it.
Not just make. I understand where he was getting to, but at the start of that press conference, he talked about their effort, and he shifted it to talk about their style. Then he talked about just things that them being able to handle the pressure of moments, pressure of playing against good teams. And then in the end he said, well, it doesn't really matter whether we make finals or not. I just thought, I'd never heard that wound back so quick. 5 weeks ago it was, we don't want to be one of those teams that's just playing out the season. And he says, well, I hope that's not us. And then now that's where exactly they sit.
No, I'm a Brad Scott fan. I think he's made a lot of positive moves for that footy club. That wasn't one of his best ones. But from where they'd been in the top 2 not that long ago to the expectations of the footy club, of course it's about playing finals. There's some myths in football. Whenever I hear this, the key forward is just all his job is just to bring the ball to ground. That's a myth. I mean, anyone can do that. You got to mark. You got to kick goal. Anyone can do that. The other one is finals don't matter. It's about the way. Of course, finals matter. Of course, they matter when you're in the top 2 6 weeks ago and your season has evaporated as quickly as it has. So no, I'm not buying that. It's a good pick up from you, and I'm not sure the Essendon fans will be buying that as well.